Hello, fellow literati. Welcome to In the Dark, the internet's most laid-back literature show. I'm Nikita, joined by my co-host, Squeaky Chair. Squeak, you bastard. Wow, now it won't squeak. I did like 10 takes, and it kept squeaking. Wow, that's not very laid back now that I think about it. Anyway, on this show, I thought we could answer some of your guys' questions about literature, or I could talk about topics, but alas, I have no topic or question recommendations yet. So I thought I would just pick a topic that I see talked about a lot online. So the topic is going to be just right, the advice of just right. If you've ever asked for writing advice from anyone, especially professional writers, you probably have heard this advice. Oh, just write. And I've seen this advice given out a lot on Reddit as well, for people trying to figure out, how do I get started writing? Or I have writer's block. How do I get over that? And then people will just say, oh, just write. And a lot of people seem to have this reaction of, well, I can't just write, dummy. That's why I'm asking. I don't know what to write. I don't know how to write it, or I'm worried that if I do write it, it'll be bad. So, what do I do? So I have a couple thoughts on this. First of all, I do think just write is the best advice, and I'll show you why in a second, but really, all of those reasons that I gave for people being confused about how to just write, I feel like they come down to partially misinterpreting what just right means. It seemed to me, and this is a bit of a generalization, but it seemed to me that when people say, "Oh, just write," how do I do that? My whole problem is that I don't know how to write. In that situation, you should just write what you can write, and not really worry about the format or even the subject matter of it so much. And that's just because writing anything is it's better than writing nothing. Which is what that advice comes down to, and maybe you're thinking, but I'm going to write something and it's going to be bad, and it's like, yeah, maybe, but you will have written something that you can look at and think to yourself, why is this not as good as things I like? What can I improve about this thing to make it better? You have something you could show to somebody and be like, hey, here's a thing I wrote. I can have some advice on how to make it better. Or, for people that have writer's block and they're like, oh, I can't write. Well, if you write down what you're thinking, you're probably thinking something. In fact, if you're thinking, you sit down at your computer and you're like, or, with a notepad, whatever, however you do it, you sit down and you're like, I don't know what to write. This is stupid. That's a thought, and you just write that down, and you just keep going. Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's a bit of its own skill to just be able to vomit words onto a piece of paper. But that's a skill worth developing, because different writers have different processes, obviously, but every writer's process, to some extent, involves putting words onto the page. So whatever way you do that, a lot of writers, actually a surprisingly large amount of writers, go through like 5 or 6 drafts of a thing. So their first draft is just absolute nonsense, just verbal diarrhea on the page. And then they'll retype it, or they'll go through and take stuff out. And, after 10, 10 revisions, you get to a publishable state, or at least a state that you can show somebody. And not everyone's like this. For me, I go through a lot of obsessive edits, but I don't really rewrite. Generally, the way something comes out is how it'll stay for at least a lot of the stuff I write. But it depends on you. So putting something on the page is the first step at all times. And that's kind of what Just Write is about. Hopefully that makes sense. So I thought I'd do a little demonstration and show what just writing is for a minute or so. And we can maybe speed it up. But I'll just show you what the end result of me just writing for a minute is. I haven't chosen a topic. I haven't thought about what I want to write. I do have, just to be clear, I do have experience writing. So maybe what my result will be won't be similar to your result. Also in subject matter, I write kind of weird stuff. If you've seen my Instagram or read my stories, for the few of you that have, it can be a bit weird. So so don't worry too much about the content, but let's just see what I come up with, and we can maybe have a look at it and see what can be done with the nonsense that I come up with in about a minute. So let's jump over to the computer real fast. See you there. All right, here we are on my desktop. You can admire my beautiful Monet background. And I'm just going to time-lapse this, I think. So don't be surprised. It's going to take like 3 seconds, but actually I'll be writing for about a minute. Let's do it, I guess. Oh, and here's the thing. Don't worry about like grammar, punctuation when you're just writing. I mean, you could try and write like an actual story. I'm just gonna do like a stream of consciousness kind of thing. So there are two, and I wanted to make a video about this later actually, about the distinction between automatic writing and like just write, or stream of consciousness kind of writing. Actually, I guess I'll figure it out. But if you want to see a video on the difference between these two things that I defined very poorly, let me know in the comments. But basically, to be fair, there are two kinds of things you can do here. One is like trying to write like a real story, like, oh yeah, John walked into the room. He was shocked. You could do this kind of thing and like just try and like actually write a story. But if you don't know what to write, if you sit down and you're like, all right, I have nothing going on for me. I have nothing. I don't know. I have no characters, no setting, no like themes. If you sit down and you're like, all right, I want to write a love poem, and you're like, I love you so much, so very much. You are my sunshine. If you know how to do that, then if you're feeling it, if the muse is with you, then you probably don't need this video. But this is kind of like, oh, I don't know what to write, or I'm worried it'll be bad. Yeah, don't worry about it being bad. Just write anything that comes to mind. If nothing comes to mind, write that nothing is coming to mind. So let's try it. Are you ready? I think this has gone on long enough. So as you can see, a lot has happened. And again, to be fair, I write quite fast. So you don't need to write this much. But the point is just whatever comes to mind, you just put it on the page. And yeah, like, this is kind of stupid. It's kind of garbage. If you hear that scratching sound in the background, that's my dog scratching his little sleeping spot. But yeah, so let's take a look at this. As you can tell, it's... Ooh, am I allowed to swear on here? Am I allowed to swear on this show? Family-friendly content right here. Maybe I'll probably bleep that out with a page turn. Funny, right? Anyway, so we have, hey, hello, welcome to the club. Yes, this is the club for profound manatees. Anyway, I'm not gonna read this. You can read it yourself. But basically, you know, what's the value of this? Well, for one, you wrote something. So as I mentioned, it's better than writing nothing. And then you can go through this and see, hey, like, is there anything cool I can take from this? Anything that gives me more ideas? Or like, hey, this is like interesting, I can expand this. So, you know, this is kind of a cool image. You got profound manatees. That could be like a funny, you could do something cool with that. Like, these manatees are profound, like intellectual manatees, and they love to dance. And they have sunshine hats, whatever that is. That's pretty cool. Hey, you could do something with that. That's not... And there's, hey, hello, welcome to the club. I mean, even saying, hey, hello, that's kind of interesting. Hey, hello. It's like, moshi moshi. Really, don't worry about the dancing so much. We can just get to it later. This sounds like something like a person would say. Hey, really, don't worry about the dancing. You can just, you know, this kind of evokes a scene for me of people at some party or like a club, and then one person says to the other, oh, like, we still haven't danced yet. This sucks. And then the person's like, really, don't worry about the dancing so much. We can just, we'll get to it later. Honestly, the moon is a bit too bright for my liking today. That's kind of a character. Like, who would say this? Sort of snarky dude. Like, that's a funny thing to complain about, isn't it? Oh, whoops, I cut off the other funny part. I wish it would just shut up. So you can see how this kind of evokes ideas. Sorry about my squeaky chair, my co-host. It's very squeaky. See, it only squeaks when I don't want it to. Alright, that's enough of that. But can you do this? The leaves are beautiful as the stars. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We don't have to use that. Oh yeah, and then I got into this huge dog thing. So this is kind of what happens is, as you write a bunch of nonsense for a while, eventually like one kind of, you'll get fixated on one thing, and hey, like that's kind of the start of so here, if you just break it here, so there's some sort of dog that's bugging this, this narrator. This dog needs to leave me alone, or else I'm going to file a report. That's like kind of funny already. That could be like a story. And then here you're getting like more, you're getting some backstory. Mountains of paperwork are a big deal for dogs. Like, yes, you can, that could be elaborated, or don't. That's kind of funny on its own. And you know, you don't have to use it how it is, but you're getting ideas. You're like, hey, dogs, paperwork, this narrator is kind of like, is he a lawyer? Is she a lawyer? What's going on here? And this kind of is dumb, but you know, everyone's different. Maybe this for you is like, oh yeah, monsters with big heads. That's fine, but big heads with monsters. That's like, alright, I'm going to write a poem about this. Anyway, hopefully you see how you can just write if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them in the comments below. I think that's everything I have to say about it. But please, 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 if you're watching this, and I know you are watching this, whoever you are, please leave a comment with a question that you have about writing, literature, just like anything. You can ask me any question really, but I can answer some questions about writing or literature specifically. But please, you specifically, I know you're watching. There must be at least one person on the on the earth that'll see this. Leave a comment. So I have something else to talk about. I'm going to be doing this every day. And until somebody picks a topic or recommends a question, I'll just be picking my own, and that's okay, I guess. But I'd be happy to help answer questions that you have. That would just make it easier because I know what you're interested in. So please do that. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that's helpful. Love you. Bye. See you tomorrow. Love you. Bye. See you tomorrow.